I am Kyle Cunningham. I'm from Grafana Labs. And what I'm going to be talking about a little bit is going beyond observability. And what that means essentially is that, Grafana is a tool that in the past has mostly been used in the observability context. But of course, this being an analytics conference, we want to talk about analytics. So I'm going to walk a bit through, just kind of give an overview, and then kind of talk a bit about the analytics context for Grafana. And all right, just getting kicked off here. So quick outline, and I kind of mentioned this a bit already. We're going to do the overview. I'm going to run through kind of a data scenario, basically some data and some stuff to play with for this. Go through some demo and some tools, basically kind of talking about how Grafana works. Then probably just do a quick wrap up and hopefully have some questions. So first, just a little bit about me. My name is Kyle Cunningham. I am the tech lead for business intelligence at Grafana Labs. And what we've been doing with business intelligence is just making Grafana more user-friendly overall and better for analytics use cases. So getting away from data that's just kind of in time series. I've been at Grafana Labs for just about 2 years now. And prior to that, I've been a consultant. I've been in the software and tech world, and that's kind of the tech business world for about 15 years. And so for those of you that haven't heard about Grafana, Grafana is a dashboarding tool. So essentially you can take Grafana, install it in your infrastructure. It is open source, of course, and then use it to visualize the data that you have. There's many different types of visualizations. A bunch come pre-installed. There's plugins as well. So you can get a lot of different visualizations. Beyond that, there are also many different types of data sources. The last time I checked, there were over 100 different types of data sources that Grafana could interface with. And traditionally, this was the time series type databases, but this has expanded to a lot of things, including SQL databases, but also other kind of maybe more exotic things like API endpoints, Salesforce, Strava, things of that nature. So there is a very long tail of use cases for Grafana that goes outside of software operations and goes outside of the data center. And to kind of put this concretely, I've seen Grafana used in everything from tracking satellites to tracking racing sailboats to robots to everything in between. So there's a really quite a few different use cases that we can get into when it comes to Grafana. And so we want to talk about in the analytics use case, though, just trying to dig into data. And, one of the questions then is, what if I have more than time series data? When I'm working in an infrastructure type setting, usually I'm kind of looking at instrumentation. I want to see what my CPU utilization looks like, or how much memory I'm using at a certain point in time, or seeing how my services are operating over time. But those are all kind of point in time things. There is, of course, point in time events in the analytics world as well, but there's also comparative things as well. For instance, we'll have like a lot of data in SQL databases. This might just contain customer information. It might contain sales information or business information, but it's not necessarily going to be in a time series format. It could just be a collection of numbers. It could just be a collection of other information. Traditionally, Grafana has had some trouble with this, but more and more we spend time addressing this use case. And yeah, what if I am trying to compare numeric values or even just graph numeric values? Working with time series there is not always going to be the best way forward. I mean, you can try and do things with time always, but it doesn't always make sense. Sometimes I just want to see maybe something is selling well, at any given time, or things are happening that really are not time dependent. So we want to like be able to look into those use cases and be able to handle those as well. So talking about the scenario, we have an online record store here, and this is going to be a very kind of special online record store, the Graphy Grooves record store. With this, We have what I did is I took um, pretty much all the Billboard Top 100 hits. I want to say since like 1958, and loaded them up in a database. There are quite a few. So we're talking about I want to say 300,000 records or so. And then kind of along with this, and so here um, with all those 300,000 records, I also generated about a million sales records relative to those 300,000 Billboard Top 100s. So essentially, what we have is we have a very nice and pretty like wide data set at this point. You know, millions of records, many ways that we can dig into this. And so I'll be honest, when you're like an analyst or when you're someone who starts with Grafana, you're not necessarily going to know what the shape of the data is. You're not going to know what you're getting into. So we're going to be doing this live. We're actually just going to be diving into Grafana, diving into this data set, and seeing if we can make any sense of it, and seeing what we can do with it. And with this, I'm going to be using different tools, different things. This is going to be somewhat structured, but I'm also, I'm going to be looking into this myself a little bit to see if I can find and surface any interesting insights. So we really are doing this live. I haven't actually looked into the data of this data set. So you all will see what I see at the same time. So hopefully this will be interesting. There's always a little bit of danger when just picking a random data set. So I think we'll be okay though. So let's give it a shot. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start digging into the data. And what I've done is I've taken and actually integrated Grafana into this presentation. Um, so what this gives us is right now I'm looking at the Explore interface in Grafana. So this is actually not the default interface if I go to the home page. But what this interface allows me to do is to craft queries and look at the data that I would have in the database. So in this case, I put all this data in MySQL. And so what I'm going to do is start kind of querying that data, start seeing what we have. Okay. So what I did is I loaded all this data in the songs table, if I remember correct. And here I'm just using a query builder. I'm going to grab all the data that seems relevant. Definitely the peak position. So that would be the top position on the Billboard chart. That seems like a good one. The artist, of course. And okay, the song, I'm pretty sure is just the song name. And let's get something else too. Added to catalog, I think that'll be a good one. So this is just a made up date, but this would be the date that we, in our store that we added it to our own catalog. So we can use it. We can see, over time what we might have been doing. And let's just do one more field at this point. Let's do weeks on chart. Okay, so I think we got a pretty good set of stuff here. The artist, the song name, when we added it to the catalog, and we also got how many weeks on the chart and the top position on the chart. So let's see what happens with that. All right, so that's good. We're querying the data correctly. We can see stuff that makes sense. We got a little Ricky Nelson here, poor little fool, things like that. I'm assuming that this is mostly an accurate data set, but I'm not 100% sure. So maybe one way I can do, one thing I can do quick is just filter this. And let's make sure that we have like a data set that makes some sense. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm just going to see if there's an artist that like I can recognize like fairly recently. How about Taylor Swift? Taylor Swift has been in the news a bunch. Okay. Oh wow. Okay. We got lots of Taylor Swift ones here. Okay, this is good. So this data set's like looking pretty interesting. Okay, now let's look at the song sales rather than just the top 100 songs themselves. Okay, so I'm going to go over here. Um, so I think this is the one. We can check though. Okay, this is like looking pretty good. So we have quantity, sale time, new unit price. That seems important. And song ID. So I'm assuming that the song ID would be the ID of the song that was sold. All right, let's check this out and see if this works. Nope, there we go. There we got a data table. Okay, cool. So we got quantities in here, sale times, unit prices, and song ID. All right, so that all seems to be working, and that's okay. That's really good. So we're getting the data in. I'm able to make sense of the data. I mean, it's looking like, at least from a high level, everything is looking like I would expect it to be. So that's great. What this means, though, is that we can start taking this and kind of start digging into it a little bit more, building a dashboard and seeing like what kind of information on the whole is actually in here. Obviously, we're not going to be able to read through a million plus records manually. And so we need to take this and start messing with it a little bit. So that is exactly what we're going to do. Um, so in Grafana, the way we usually talk about things is dashboards. And so what a dashboard is a dashboard can contain really any set of visualizations combined together, whether it's tables, time series, anything like that. So what we'll do is we explored the data a little bit. We'll kind of follow that process a little bit again, but this time we're actually going to start slicing and dicing it and setting things up a bit. Okay. So what I did is I have an empty dashboard that's already set up. What I did is I added one panel, and if I ever want to like add a visualization, I basically am just like clicking a button like this. This is just using test data right here. So what I'm going to do is go in, select my database, and then start selecting my data. We're just time series right now for the visualization. I'm just going to go forward and see how this goes, and then I might change that. Let's just start with the songs. All right. So, and again, we definitely want that added to catalog. Now, let's get the peak position again. And weeks on chart. Okay. So let's see if there's anything like, did we add a bunch of things to the catalog at one time, or is it all just random? I think we'll be able to figure this out. We're outside the data range. That's not surprising. We're looking at the last 6 hours right now. Okay. And okay, so we do have quite a bit of data here. So if you're seeing this, we're about like 12, 15, we're starting 12, 15, 22. So we're looking at about the last year. And so you can see there really isn't actually in this case any pattern to how these were added to our catalog. We basically did them randomly. Little interesting, but maybe not super interesting. But for now, let's just add this one. I'm going to click the apply button. And we'll just say, and let me actually give this a name quick so that I remember what it is. Log. You'll notice right now I'm also just graphing the peak position, which is again not the probably the most super useful data, but it's just a start. We'll kind of massage this as we keep going and as time allows. Okay. So now a similar thing. I kind of though want to really start looking in at all these records that we have. So before I had the table showing the breakdown of the artists and the things like that. So let's get something like that, but let's try and make it a little bit more useful this time. So we had the artist. I want to get the song name. Okay. And then I'm also going to grab the peak position. Okay, make sure that this runs. As you can see, we don't have a time field in this case, so trying to visualize that with time series isn't going to make sense since we don't have a time. So let's switch over to the table. Now, the table is great for like a lot of different analysis tasks. And certainly, this peak position is kind of interesting. But right now we have just tons and tons of records. I think here, this is getting limited down. Let's take off that limit too so that we get everything. Run this query, but that's okay. Let's give it a shot. Okay, I think we got it. Oh yeah, so we have way, way more data there. Okay, so going through this a bit. I'm going to add a transformation. And what a transformation does is it takes the data from my data source, in this case, the database, and just applies groupings, calculations, things like that to it. So I think what I'm going to do is just group by. All right. And let's group by the artist. Okay. So now we have just the artist names. This helps a lot because I'm assuming that multiple of these artists are these artists are represented by multiple songs in some cases. So let's do this. We can calculate with the song. Let's do just a count. So this is interesting. Let's see what actually are our top artists on the Billboard. So we have the count and we have the artist. I think all we need to do now is actually just make this sortable. So I will do that. Okay. And I'm going to turn on an option to make this sortable. If I can get to it, or even better yet, let's just sort directly from the data source. So I'm going to go ahead and do that quick. Actually, no, excuse me. Do the transform. So we'll do another transform. Sort. Let's get that song count and reverse it. Oh man. So it is actually, as it turns out, that it looks like it is Taylor Swift and then followed by Drake, who have the most hits at the top of the Billboard Top 100 and the most time. So that's interesting. Seems like we're getting somewhere here. Okay, let me get this. I'm gonna set the title here. Okay. Cool. Apply that. So let me just move this. I'm going to pop that over there. So now you can see we're actually starting to get some semi-useful information on this dashboard and actually start to understand a little bit of the data in it. We have some information about like when things are being added to our catalog. We have the Billboard top artists too now. But let's keep digging in here a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to save this. Okay. Now, visualizing. So we have been doing a little bit of visualizing, but let's do some more. And in this case, I think we want to look at sales a little bit more. Can we find any patterns in the sales of these records? Are there any prices? Does it change by currency? Let's take a look and find out. Okay, so hopping back into where we were, I think I really want to take a look and really understand how the sales are doing, and is there any like correlation to any of this? So I'm going to go and add another visualization. Again, we're starting from the data source. A nice thing is that once you select a data source on a dashboard, you'll keep getting that same data source. So we're still working within that. So let's go back to song sales. Now, I want to see, I think, probably two things. I noticed before that there was a quantity. So people are buying these potentially multiple times. And also the unit price. Um, so I think I want to try and see what on average the quantity and the unit price are. So let's try and get those. Those are something that, you know, as we, of course, as we move forward and as we're looking into stuff, that's like really important. We definitely want to be able to understand the sales volume for our store, and see what's going on there. So let's try and do that. Okay. And running the query, we have no dates here. So I can switch to a table for now to see that. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do, also let's get the currency. Okay. And now in this case, I think we do want some kind of time here. Since ideally, I think we would like to break down the different sales times so we can use this to look at the last month, the last 2 months, whatever we'd like. Okay, run this again. Okay, so that's all looking good. What I want to do here, see if I can make this work. Yeah, maybe not. Oh yeah. Shoot. Okay, the danger of live demos here. We'll just ignore that one. Okay. So now let's get the average unit price and quantity relative to the currencies. So we can do group by again here. Let's group by the currency. For the unit price, let's go for the average. And let's do the same for the quantity. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Definitely looking better. And this time, I'd like to break this down a bit. Okay, so instead of using a table, I just want these to be delivered as statistics. So right now we can see that the average quantity is 12, and that the unit price, this would be like in cents or dollars or something like that. And hopefully not people are not paying $120 for the song. Hopefully like 120 cents a song. But that gives us an idea. So this looks pretty good. So now we're actually getting into the sales volume a bit, and we're actually in the unit volume and seeing how these are changing over time. So that's pretty interesting. Let me also, because we hopefully want to come back and read this, well, we can make those field names nice. So let's organize. Okay, so average quantity and price. Okay, cool. Oh, that's working fine. Price. Okay, Excellent. Now this dashboard is actually really, I think, starting to look like something interesting. We have some information on the store. We have some Billboard top artists. We have some idea of how things are being added to our catalog, and kind of actually when, if there was any correlation between the peak position on Billboard and how we added those to the catalog. It turns out there's nothing, just kind of random. But we're starting to get some information and being able to put some things together. Um, so what I'm going to do though is I just got asked how much time we have for questions, and I think we're getting towards the end of our time. So this kind of I'd say we're getting towards the end of our demo. So let's see if we can just wrap this up quick and get to questions. All right. Um, so and just quickly, um, what I want to do is see if I can just maybe break down a little bit of what we got here a little bit more. Um, so in this one, Taylor Swift, um, let's take this. I think what we can do is we're seeing the peak position. And again, let's rather than like added to catalog, let's look at the actual date. So this would be the date this was added to Billboard. Yeah, of course, we're out of range because this spans all the way back to 1958. Uh-oh. Oh, I see why. Only got a very small range here. Let's change this to 2022. Things still not quite agreeing with me here. So I might have to leave that example, but we can leave that one for the questions. But what you can do, and what I was trying to do here, is just take a look at this, see how the peak positions and the songs we're comparing over time, see if we can find any information there that might be useful. So with that, so quick review. We just went through exploring data, visualizing data, trying to get some insights on that data. We're looking at a record store, you know, that's based on the Billboard Top 100. Does it, is it getting sales relative to a certain song? What artists are popular? What things are selling? How is the sales volume looking? And Grafana allows you to really quickly dive into any source of data, whatever it is, and start slicing and dicing, whether through exploring or dashboards, transformations, or anything else.